I'm taking the team total. I'm taking first quarter, first half, full game, taking it all. OU all the way. I lost so much money on OU.
Whoa, he has trouble with the snap, and the ball is free.
Cast starts from all crazy. And they run through our ass like shit through a tin horn, man.
That is a disgusting act by Randy Moss.
What is up, and welcome to a very special Not Another CFB Pod. This is Season 2, Episode 1. It's a brand new beginning for us here on the show. We've got a brand new co-host, which I'm going to introduce in just a second. If you're watching on YouTube, we've got a whole new setup with the background going on and everything. But it's very important, and it is my honor to introduce Beast Picks to the podcast. You guys remember him? He was on a couple times last year. Well, now he's permanent. We're going to be having some other guests and friends on as we go forward with the show, but Beast is here to stay. What's going on, Beast?
Not too much. I feel like that video of the Clippers owner when they got Kawhi Leonard where he's, man, I'm so fired up to be here. Man, he's clapping and everything,
Yeah,
looking all
Steve
goofy.
Ballmer,
That's how I'm feeling inside right now, man. I'm excited to be here. Got a lot of good content coming. I'm just fired up, man.
Yeah, we got some great ideas going for the pod. Special shout out to everyone on Twitter. We kind of announced what we were doing just today, but the outpouring of support was awesome. We got tons of questions coming up later from Twitter. We're going to do that right after the futures, which is kind of our next segment. But right now, we're just kind of getting into it, let you guys know what this podcast is about. Last year, Not Another CFB Pod was a lot more like just picks. Hardcore picks, not a whole lot of breakdown, memes, anything, it was just kind of straight to the point, and it was fun and it was successful. But now we're going to kind of introduce a little personality to the show. We got Beast here. And like I said, we're going to have plenty of guests on. I can't leak who we've got lined up for week 1 of college football, but it's somebody special that you guys are going to love. We're also going to have a show that comes out on Tuesdays. It's going to kind of be our weekend recap, just kind of letting you guys know what went down in the NFL slate and the college football slate, maybe how our bets did, how the weekend went overall. I think Beast got some cool ideas for that too. So that's kind of going to be going down. So it's going to be 2 shows a week. I mean, this one's going to come out on Friday, and this is just your kind of preview of the weekend, picks, our best bets. We're going to have money line dogs. We're also going to do a thing called Pod. We're calling it Pod Parlay, and we're just each kind of giving a best bet, and we're going to put it together in a parlay. I'm really excited for that in particular. What do you think, Beast?
I'm fired up. I think it's going to be a really good segment for us. And all these segments are going to be good. Obviously, we got 2 good heads collabing together. It's going to be a really good year of football, man. I'm just excited to have it back, really.
I know, football being back, it just seems it's just what we've needed for so long. The longest offseason in sports, as far as I know.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure
definitely.
it is, like just in terms of days. So, I mean, you get to days like this, man, and you just start counting down. We're recording this on Thursday night. You guys are listening to this on Friday, hopefully. And then we've got the Saturday slate, which isn't crazy. We're going to go through some games here, give out some picks, but I mean, it's nothing crazy, but it's football, and that's what we're here for. One thing I don't want to just gloss over either is the fact that we're doing NFL this year. The name's still going to be Not Another CFB Pod for now, but we're still going to talk about we're just football guys. So we're going to talk about football. One big reason I wanted Beast on here so bad is because he killed it last year in the NFL, and I need him to show me his ways, because I need to be kind of walked through the NFL slate. How do you do it? I mean, I don't even know.
Yeah, I mean, NFL's a tricky sport like that. I felt like when I was starting off the season last year, I'm like, oh, well, this is easy. Like, this team's going to be super good. And you just learn certain trends as you kind of go on throughout the season. That is the sport, I would say, more than any other sport that I've bet, that fading the public is probably one of the best strategies, especially on those Sunday night football games. Everybody, if it's Rams on Sunday night football and you see 79% of the bets are on the Rams, I don't even care who they're playing. They could be playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. Take the Jaguars and the points. It'll probably end up paying off. So you learn a lot of different tips and tricks like that, but a lot of good stuff coming with NFL too. So can't wait for that to start.
Yes. We got a big NFL preview pod coming out. I believe it'll be September 9th. It's a Tuesday. If I'm wrong, it's either the 8th or the 9th. I think we're recording on the 8th. It'll come out the 9th. That's going to be our big NFL preview show. I've got a really special guest, that I'm thinking about for that one. We're going to see if the timing works out and everything for him. But it's going to be a lot of fun. One of the big things with NFL that I picked up from you last year was that fade the public mentality. And that works to some degree in the bigger games in college football, but sometimes the public's on the right side. But listen, the sports books don't lose. So at the end of the day, they're going to make their money. And sometimes fading the public is just the move, especially in the NFL, it seems like.
Yeah.
But with all that said, I think we should get to our first segment. We're going to give out a couple futures, and this is both in college football and in the NFL. We wanted to get this out of the way before the season started. We'll have a couple more potentially when we get to the NFL part. We just wanted to make sure we got the last minute kind of college football ones out there. And I'm going to lead off with the first play. I like the Super Bowl odds on the Los Angeles Rams to repeat plus 1,000. Their roster got deeper. I feel like, they did lose OBJ, but got a lot of positive things going on there. And that's a pretty long price. I mean, now one thing that we do have to talk about is the video that surfaced as of recording this today, which was Aaron Donald with 2 Bengals helmets in his hands, doing basically the windmill on guys, just bringing the hammer down with these Bengals helmets. And so I don't know if he's going to be suspended yet. I don't know. He may just be fined. We'll see, but
it's hard to say. It might even just be like a team suspension where it might not be anything the NFL puts in. It could just be the Rams saying
self-discipline.
We got to do something, but it could impact the first couple games. You never know. That's a big piece.
I don't know, because I'm thinking about the games Myles Garrett got. He only swung 1 helmet. But that was also on national TV, whereas this is just like a Twitter clip. So I don't know. We'll see. But you want to go with the next future?
Yeah. A future that is kind of under the radar. This could probably qualify as one of those under the radar plays because not a ton of people pay attention to the Mountain West. I really like Fresno State to win the Mountain West this year. We've talked a lot about Jake Haener in the past, but he's getting back Jalen Cropper as number 1 receiver. And this was a team that won 10 games last year. So if you're returning your quarterback, who I think is going to be best quarterback in the Mountain West, probably one of the top 20 in the country, I'd say he's probably in that discussion. They're going to be solid on offense. I think they're just going to be rolling through that Mountain West. And at plus 240, I feel like that's pretty good odds. I want to say Boise State's the only one I could really see having a chance of beating them out, but I think they got the edge. So that's actually who I picked, in my article that I did for the website as well, who I think will win the conference.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I'm going to go into the next one here. I'm going to do 2 Heisman picks, I think. I'm going to just rip both of these off and just quickly give reasons behind them. The first one is I like CJ Stroud to win the Heisman plus 300. It's not that exciting. I get it. But he plays for Ohio State. They look to be the best team in the Big Ten, but we'll see. I like Michigan as well. We'll probably cover them a little bit later. They do some nice things just as far as the physical way that they run the ball. But I like CJ Stroud. I don't see Bryce Young winning it in a repeat fashion. They really hate giving out that award twice. And if Ohio State can emerge, I feel like he'll get most of the credit. The only thing I'm scared about is Jackson Smith and Jigba stealing some votes because he's a household name now. Everybody knows what he can do, especially in the Rose Bowl. He absolutely went off. So it's a little scary if a bulk of his touchdowns come from Jackson Smith and Jigba. He's definitely going to steal some votes, which is why I want to throw in a fun pick with this Heisman as well. I like Will Anderson, linebacker he's listed as a linebacker from Alabama at plus 1,800. It's a fun one. A defensive player hasn't won in forever. He probably can't, but he was the best player in college football last year, arguably. He would have been the number 1 pick, and then he's coming back this year, probably going to be the number 1 pick, almost no doubt, unless something bad happens. Whenever that's the case, they start getting a lot of media attention, especially if this is a better defense. They return a lot of starters by Bama's standards on defense. Expect this defense to be really good and him to get a lot of that credit. So Will Anderson to win the Heisman, I think it's mostly just a fun pick, but he's a beast. So what can you say?
No, that's a great long shot play to have out there. Like you said, if it's going to be a defensive guy, it's going to be Will Anderson for sure. kind of sticking on that Heisman conversation, I like Caleb Williams at plus 700.
Okay.
I'm not sure what it's at, but when I looked last, it was plus 700. We were kind of discussing before the show, if there's going to be somebody from the Pac-12, that West Coast representation, it's probably going to be Caleb Williams. And with Lincoln Riley, going over there, and now he's got Jordan Addison. He's going to have a solid running back with Dye coming over from Oregon. That offense, I'm concerned that like there's too much hype going into it, but it feels like on paper they're just going to be rolling, and I think he could have a monster season with the the tools he has around him. And
I like it.
If he can make that top 4, if his numbers in that Pac-12, sometimes the Pac-12 can kind of be very offensive friendly. So maybe his numbers will just be kind of boosted up. We'll see.
Yeah. No, I like it. And for those that don't know, I'm an OU fan. The people watching on YouTube already knew that. You can kind of see my banner in the background. I really don't have that many hard feelings left for them. It is what it is. They did what they thought was best for them. Both parties have moved on as far as OU and Lincoln Riley and crew. So I'm not worried about them. I hope they do well, honestly. The only thing is with Caleb Williams is I think is similar to that fear I had about CJ Stroud, where does his skill position players take votes away from him? Because he's got the Blitnikoff winner on his team. We might get into that later in our big transfers section. Just some big moves that have been made, a lot of additions to that offense. So we'll see. But as long as those guys don't steal too much shine away from Caleb Williams, I don't hate that pick.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stick in CFB with my final future that we're going to give out here on the show, and that's Utah to win the Pac-12. It's only plus 225. They're the second favorite to do it. I love this team. I love Cam Rising. He did get a concussion in that final game in the Rose Bowl against Ohio State, but he's had a lot of time for that head to heal. Quarterbacks don't get hit in practice so much, so they're not supposed to get hit at all. So hopefully his head has had time to heal. His brain has had time to heal from that concussion, and everything goes well. It's just a concern when players start getting those often that, it's easier and easier for them to get it. Hopefully that's not the case. I like Utah a lot. I love the way they're coached. They have the best home field in the Pac-12, in my opinion. The place is rocking. They've got a pretty favorable schedule just in terms of who they play, when, and where. They play a lot of the big games at home this year, and it's a great home field. So I like Utah to win the Pac-12.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good play. I think we both are going to be pretty high on Utah this year. So, and we'll get to that obviously as we get through the show. The last play I got as far as the future goes is I'm on Pitt over 8.5 wins. I don't think the ACC is going to be extremely strong. I know a lot of people are high on Clemson. I'm a little bit lower on Clemson this year, but the big thing with Pitt this year is I think that defense is going to be stacked. They're returning 6 all ACC starters on defense, and it depends how you feel about Slovis, but I think Slovis is going to come over. He has a lot of talent. If he can make it work in that Pitt offense, just like Pickett did last year, I think there's a lot to be excited about with them. I think they're going to surprise some people this year, and I think they can find 9 wins on their schedule.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. I like Pitt. We'll see. Very interesting game. Our guy B-Russ from the Coda Sports Gambling Network is a big WVU fan, so that's a huge rivalry, the backyard brawl coming back for the first time in a long time. So that'll be interesting. Pitt, the Pitt Panthers. We'll see. Do you have any more futures?
That's it. That's it for futures for me.
Okay. Well, we started to talk about the Coda Sports Gambling Network, and it's important that I read this ad before we move on. The Bet Coda Sportsbook is a South Dakota-owned, operated sportsbook located in the Midnight Star Casino in Deadwood, South Dakota, serving customers in the state. As you enter the Midnight Star, you are swept away into the past with the grand staircase, stunning woodwork, and the elegance of the chandelier. They offer the best lines in Deadwood, so stop by and mention the Coda Sports Gambling Network to receive a free Bet Coda t-shirt. That's pretty cool. I wish I had one of those. Play responsibly. You must be 21 years or older to wager. Gambling problems or concerns, call 1-800-522-4700. 4700. You and I are both a big part of the Coda Sports Gambling Network. We love it. We love those guys. We met them through Twitter. And so Twitter's been a big part of how you and I have done this so far. And so we wanted to give Twitter a little love. So we decided to ask Twitter to give us some topics to talk about. So right now we're going to go through some of our favorites. Some of the NFL ones we may skip because we are going to have that big NFL preview going forward. So we may stick to just the college football ones here. I'm scrolling down and finding some of our favorites. Shout out Cheapy13. He's the first one that popped up. He asked about the Vikings. We'll just, you know what, we'll hit this one real quick. We love Cheapy13. He said, would you guys talk about how the Vikings own their division now? Thanks. I'll hang up and listen. I am interested to hear you talk, Beast, because you are the Lions fan of the pod. So you know the NFC North. You should know it like the back of your hand anyway.
Yeah.
I've been a little low on the Vikings, and maybe that's just me being mean. I'm not sure. I love Justin Jefferson. Obviously, the things he does is really fun. And I love Adam Thielen too. So, but kind of sell me on, where do you see the Vikings falling this year?
I mean, I think that it still should probably be expected that the Packers are going to win the division. It seems like that's such a very like casual take to have, but really what it is it's just Aaron Rodgers is just that dude. But as a Lions fan, I'd prefer for that to not happen. I think the Lions are going to be kind of scrappy this year. Maybe I'm just getting a little too fired up off Hard Knocks.
Hard Knocks, man.
You know, maybe it's just the Hard Knocks in me, you know, and I'm just drinking that blue Kool-Aid. But I think the Lions are going to be kind of dangerous this year. They might, you know, kind of beat up on the Bears and the Vikings. And if nobody's really challenging the Packers, I think the Packers probably run away with the division late. But for a while, I wouldn't be shocked if the Vikings were, you know, fighting for it with the Packers. But I think they're going to drop a game, you know, to the Lions at some point. One of those two. You never know. We'll see what happens. I'd love to say the Lions have a shot at winning the division. I don't think it's their year. But I also don't think it's the Vikings' year. They're going to be good. But I think their best shot at making the playoffs is just getting kind of that ugly wild card. The division's not going to be that good, in my opinion. I think it's going to be like one of the worst divisions in the NFC. So,
okay. Yeah. I think that's a good answer. We're going to move on to the next one because we've got quite a few. This comes from our guy Clay. He says, is Brian Harsin out at Auburn if he doesn't succeed? Already low expectations this year. So I pulled up Auburn's schedule over here on my side. But quickly, I wanted to talk about the problem for Brian Harsin is he's got coaches leaving. He's got coaches jumping ship. Those are the boosters would love if you just won every game, but they're also looking at what they call the bigger picture, which is my rival Alabama fans, do they respect our coaching staff? Do they, when I talk about my coaching, do they just laugh in my face? And I think right now, most people don't respect Brian Harsin. So he's got to get some wins and losses in order to just garner that respect. But like I said, he's got coaches that are just jumping ship on him. And players, entering the transfer portal. So I think it's really going to take a big year, but it's also he needs some kind of just some swag to go his way. He needs some people to start backing him up a little bit. It just feels like everybody's against him, but maybe he's got that locker room gelled a little bit now that maybe some of the dead weight is gone. So we'll just have to see. You take off, Beast. I'm going to look over the schedule real quick and just see if there's any key spots here for him.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with Brian Harsin this year. What's frustrating probably as an Auburn fan is that last year there was like 5 or 6 games that they lost by probably like a touchdown or less. I don't actually have like this stat off my head, but I remember watching Auburn. They were 6-2 at one point, and I thought, man, they're going to be pretty good, and then they lose their last 5 games. But and if they won that game against Alabama, are we putting, Harsin on the hot seat? That's the question. But I think they're going to be decent this year. I just don't know what has to specifically happen for Harsin to leave. If they underwhelm, let's just say they have like 5-6 wins again, I would say he's probably got to go. But I'm kind of expecting that they might be able to scrap out maybe that 7 wins. Their quarterback is massive. What's
the new one, Finley, right? Because yeah. TJ, is it TJ Finley?
Yeah, TJ Finley. Yeah, he is massive. I didn't realize how big he was until I was like watching highlights of Auburn recently.
Yeah. He looks a little bit like Cam. I think that's what the fans, when he first started, were kind of trying to get going. But I don't know that he's quite the quality of Cam Newton. Not everybody.
No. we'll see if he can put it together this year. I thought last year, he had some okay games, but he kind of came on late in the year. So we'll see what happens. If he breaks out this year, who knows?
Yeah, I did notice that they do play Penn State in the rematch of a classic from early season last year in Auburn. So if they win that game, I mean, that could go a long ways. They draw Missouri and Georgia out of the East, though. Georgia's brutal to have on your schedule, and they're at Athens, Georgia, so be pretty tough. But we'll see. Harsin, I think Harson's a good guy, so I hope he does well. But
SEC is just tough. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. It is, especially West. That's where they are. They play Bama every single year. We've got another one from my guy Noah, and this is a short one, but he said, say something nice about Notre Dame segment. They have cool helmets. Do you have anything?
Yeah. I'm Irish. I like the Irish. But...
There we go. We did it. We did it.
There you go,
Noah. Noah and P.
They might be able to make a run this year.
Who knows?
They're not in my top 4, but some people have.
Right. Right. And the thing is, they're a little bit like OU, where it feels like even though they lost their coach, the program has momentum. Like the alumni is getting a little more into it. The player base seems to be a little bit. So we'll see. So that was our being nice to Notre Dame segment. We may have to do one of those every pod. Those are easy. Then we had a really good one from our guy Fab, from Rick and Fab No Ball fame. He says, how far can Will Levis take the Cats this year? Obviously not a playoff contender, but I think we have a good shot to spoil some seasons. Thumbs up emoji. I'll start on this one. I have seen a wide range of expectations from Kentucky, and I don't know what to think. I'm a little worried about the supporting cast. I know Rodriguez, the star running back, is going to be out for maybe the first 3 games or something, and that's going to be really tough because I think they play Florida like game 2 or 3, so going to be really tough. But man, there's a lot of people that think that they could be undefeated going into their game against Georgia, and that could kind of decide the East. So we'll just see. I obviously love Mark Stoops. He's gone in there and done an awesome job. So I don't know. I don't know. I looked at their win total. I couldn't figure it out one way or another. So I got kind of a wishy-washy answer, but what I will say is I'm going to enjoy watching them. That's for sure.
Yeah, they're going to be that team in the SEC that probably is going to be the most fun to watch, that might not win the conference, but no, I'm high on Kentucky this year. I think Will Levis will kind of take them far. I think they're going to be one of those teams that probably was written off, in past years because, Kentucky's a basketball school. So, but this year I think they might, kind of upset a couple teams, and you got to watch out for them. I think they're going to be really good this year, but just like you said, there's just as much of a floor with them where they could underperform as with them, really, shocking some teams this year. But I'm big on Will Levis, so I think that he could take this team to 9-10 wins. I feel like 10 wins wouldn't be that crazy.
Right. So our next one, I'm not sure what direction to go with this one, but our guy Regular Smitty asked, I would very much like an LSU preview so I can know how unreasonably to take my expectations. And I feel like that's almost the same stories we just got done telling with Kentucky. There's such a wide range. They could either be really good under Brian Kelly or really bad. I'm kind of noted Brian Kelly hater guy on Twitter. I think he's a little fraudulent, but we're going to find out. LSU, not the hardest place to win, obviously. I think their last 3 national championships have been 3 different coaches. Yeah, I think that's right. Les Miles, Edo, and was it Nick Saban or something? I don't know. I just probably butchered that. But either way, the guys have won there. It's obviously loaded with talent there. I don't know that their current roster is all that great for LSU standards. They're still, I've seen some freaks on their defensive line though. I know that. And the one thing about college football, especially right now, is if your defensive line is elite, it's going to take you a long ways. And they definitely have an elite defensive line. I don't know if you have anything else on that, Beast.
Yeah, I'm excited to kind of see. I think they're going to start Jaden Daniels at quarterback, and that was a guy that when he was a freshman at Arizona State, I remember thinking, man, this guy's going to be like a stud. He's the next big, QB coming out of the Pac-12. And then he kind of stunk it up the last 2 years. So I'm curious to see if they go with him, what he could do at LSU and, a better, team surrounding him, you'd think. But you're right. That defensive line is going to be what they need to kind of, their strength of their team.
Right.
If their defense can hold up in the SEC, you never know. They might be able to kind of overperform what the expectations are, but I wouldn't get my hopes up too much with them. I'm just kind of, there's a lot of moving pieces and a lot of guys coming in and going out. So just, we'll see. It might take a year or two for Brian Kelly to get his wings,
Yeah. Yeah. It's a totally different place, Baton Rouge. It's if you've never been there, you almost got to go. Okay. So the next one comes from @Mike Jacobs. And we can do this one kind of short too. You can just kind of yes or no this one. He says, will Craig Bowl continue to put Wyoming football on the map and cover the spread versus Illinois? I kind of don't think so. Illinois lost a lot of offensive linemen and they love to run the ball under their head coach, but they got some pretty key transfers in that offensive line too. It's going to be tight. I'm a spoiler alert a little bit, but I stayed away from that one. I don't know if Beast has anything on that.
I mean, I will have a play on that game coming up later. It won't necessarily be like, it won't be against
leave him
Wyoming.
with the teaser. Leave him with the teaser.
But I do like Titus Swan on Wyoming, their running back. He had 5.9 yards per carry. So that was pretty good last year. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay, our next one comes from our guy, DJ Korf, a.k.a. our guy Corey. He says, what will it take for Scott Frost to get fired? So I think he has to lose the Northwestern, and then they play an FCS team, I think, next. So that would have to be like a close loss or a close win. I mean, like a ugly win. And then he'd have to lose to OU, like pretty convincingly in front of the home fans, like not even be really super competitive. And then I think even then they may wait a week or two before they do it, because I think I've heard his buyout drops a little bit a couple weeks into the season. So I don't know if you have any takes on that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that if it really went crash and burn that quick, they probably would get rid of him. I wouldn't be surprised if they kept him around for the season. But if he doesn't win, I would say like 6 games. I think
they got to make a bowl.
Like, as a Nebraska fan, if they don't win 6 games this year and make a bowl, I'm kind of calling for his head. And I think that should be the expectation, is that there's a lot of people very high on them this year.
Their win total's 7.5. So I think, you're right. If they don't make a bowl, I mean, that's going under your projected total by 2.5 games. You know what I mean? So I think that's perfect. I think you laid that out perfect. Let me keep seeing. Okay, I liked this one and I missed it earlier. Our guy, Budget Baller 83, he said, are there any teams outside of Ohio State and Alabama that can win this year? By and large, everyone who does one of these says no, and it looks like on paper it says no. The answer is no, rather. Alabama and Ohio State just going to be leagues above everybody else, we would think, mostly because they didn't graduate as many guys to the NFL as they normally do. They were good teams last year that retain a large portion of their team. And usually these are teams that got to rebuild the whole season. They're just like trying to get guys up to speed and blah, blah, blah. They return a lot of starters, both teams, compared to what they normally do. My bet is on Alabama to win the whole thing. I think they're that good. I don't know what Beast thinks, but anyway, I think it's going to come down to those two in the national championship. So we'll see. But
yeah, I mean, they're my top 2 as well. I wouldn't be shocked if Georgia found their way in there. There's a lot to replace on that, defense. But when you're Georgia, I mean, you can recruit with the best of them. So we'll see what happens with Georgia this year. I'm thinking they're going to make the SEC championship game, and they're in my top 4. I don't know if they could beat Ohio State or Alabama if I'm looking on paper right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. With that said, let's jump into, that was the last question I could find. Yeah. So let's jump into the CFB preview, and we can kind of our next segment was, kind of the big transfers. It may come up in this because there was a lot of movement. We've already previewed some of it, like our guy, Brian Kelly, moving down to LSU, the family guy. For those that have seen the video, of him I think it was a basketball game or something, faking an accent. So I don't know if you saw it. What was even funnier than that is he then in an interview was like, I don't know why I did that. Like, I'm from Boston. We don't really have accents. I was like,
Jeez.
Yeah, y'all do. What are you talking about? So
that's even funnier.
Things like that can shake up. The biggest one, probably Lincoln Riley and a lot of his staff moving out west to USC, Caleb Williams, Mario Williams. Jordan Addison transferring there as well. So they're loaded in offense. Travis Dye is Travis.
Yep.
Yeah. From Oregon even came into town, and he's going to be really nice in a Lincoln Riley offense.
Yeah. No,
they've got to be one of your favorites in the Pac-12.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I was excited when I saw all the pieces going to USC. I know it was probably tough, like you said.
Oh, yeah. I mean, at first it was, but
Caleb Williams, that was the guy last year.
Mm-hmm. He was if people forget, but he was like a legitimate Heisman candidate like a couple weeks in because just the numbers and what was going on, but that faded quickly. But yeah, there's some hype there.
Yeah, I think in Dye last year when I was watching the game against Ohio State, when Dye, I think he went off against Ohio State,
yes, he went
and
crazy.
I remember being like,
especially receiving, especially catching the ball.
I remember thinking like, who is this guy? And the announcer
he doesn't wear gloves, he doesn't wear armbands. He's like a little like I don't know, he's just a little dude out there, but he's just one of those guys that has the quickest feet, man. The quickest feet you'll ever see, and he's sneakily like kind of powerful. He ran over some Ohio State secondary guys in that game. Well. So the Pac-12, the Big Ten, this is kind of your expertise as a Michigan State fan. The big favorite is Ohio State, obviously, and the Big Ten was in the news quite a bit this offseason for picking up USC and UCLA and adding them to their conference, and which was a big move. But as far as this year on the field, Ohio State's big favorites. Me and you discussed this in text, and we should probably talk about it now. We think Michigan has a pretty good chance. And you were even saying that as a Michigan State fan. So what do you think about the Big Ten this year?
Yeah, as a Michigan State fan, I hate to admit that, but I think Michigan plus 750 to win the conference would be like probably the best value play if you're gonna do something. Because minus 250 for Ohio State to win it, like don't even bet it. Just don't.
You can't do that.
But yeah, I think Michigan, as much as I hate to say it, they're gonna be really solid on defense again this year. And that kind of is like, I feel like that's Jim Harbaugh's thing right now is if he's going to have a good team, it's going to be a defensive led team. Mm-hmm. He's not necessarily some like offensive guru that's just going to blow you off the field. Mm-hmm. So we'll see what happens. I'd love to say Michigan State comes out and just shocks everybody and can beat Michigan and beat Ohio State. But I don't know if it's happening this year. I'd like to say they could beat Michigan, but that's just because Mel Tucker seems to get his guys to play. He has their number. Yeah, he does. So might happen, but I think Michigan probably gets a good shot at least winning the East this year.
Yeah, the East is going to be an absolute bloodbath. That's where like all the top teams of the Big Ten are. As far as the ACC, I don't know. It seems like we both, I think, are on the same page where we really like NC State. I think they have a real shot. Devin Leary, some of these seniors, these older guys they're bringing in. I also saw that they're the only ACC team that returns their entire coaching staff. Everybody else has a new offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, head coach. They return everybody. And that's something to circle. I do think Clemson's going to be better. You can talk about your take on Clemson a little bit. I think DJU, either he's better or they start this freshman kid that's in there that they're saying is looking pretty good. Klubnik in practice, they said he's been pretty nice. So we'll see if they bring him in. I like NC State. I like Clemson. The team I think is going to come out of the Coastal Division is Miami, more than likely. They've got some good things going on. Mario Cristobal's back in town. That's another program where I think the vibes, your vibe meter is just going up with Miami. Oh, yeah. So we'll see what they can do if they do make the championship, against whoever it is. But NC State, Clemson, I think are heavy favorites there. I don't know if you have any ACC takes you want to get off.
Yeah, especially in the ACC, I feel like that is a conference where I want to have a good quarterback. And as you just mentioned, like Devin Leary is going to be probably best quarterback in the division or the conference. But also Van Dyke down in Miami, he's really solid this, or last year was really solid. I think he's going to be really good this year too. I'm not high on DJ Ukulele, as I like to call him. I don't think he's shown me enough for me to feel confident, making Clemson, because people are putting them in the top 4.
I've seen that. Yeah,
I don't know if I can see, but Clemson's defense seems to always be pretty good.
I was going to say their D line this year is, and as good as we've talked about some other defensive lines, they may have the best one. In fact, that's what most people think. So we'll see. We'll see with them. And like I said, if you got a great D line right now, you're going to be good. They did lose their D coordinator. to Oklahoma, which we can talk about the Big 12 next. Dylan Gabriel transfers in. They kind of reload after Lincoln Riley and squad leave town, but they're another one of these programs that I just think there's kind of a positive momentum in the locker room. Instead of kind of being like, oh man, our coach left us, what are we going to do? They kind of hit the ground running. They got a new strength and conditioning coordinator, Jerry Schmidt, who I know all OU fans are really pumped about. He's a guy that was at OU back when OU was winning natties and looked the part. Big, strong, physical guys. We've seen OU, especially the last couple years, really get pushed around. And so OU fans were really excited to see a new strength and conditioning program. And I believe OU is the favorite to win this conference at plus 200. I mean, that's not great value. I like to go with my heart and think they're going to do it. But the Big 12 looks to be kind of wide open this year. So what do you think?
Yeah, that's who I have to win it too. I know that probably is like music to your ears.
I love that. Yeah, no. The vibes are up.
Yeah, there you go. I like Oklahoma. I think Venables is going to come over, and there's some coaches I probably wouldn't have faith in that they could kind of just get it flowing right away. I think he can. And I also am a big, fan of Dylan Gabriel. Out of all the transfer quarterbacks you could have gotten, there are a lot worse names you could have gotten. And Gabriel was good at UCF. I think if he's got the right pieces around him, which he should, I think Oklahoma should be the favorite. But a lot of people are, they'll like Oklahoma State. I like Baylor this year. I don't think they're going to make it happen, but that would be like a value play if you're going to look in the Big 12. But I still think it's Oklahoma. I still do.
Yeah, and I've seen some pretty good picks. I think Baylor just to make the championship game is pretty good odds. But if you look at OU's schedule, they get all those top teams at home. Bedlam's at home. I believe Baylor's at home. And then obviously you get Texas in a neutral site in Dallas. So it's a pretty dang good schedule as far as the way it lines up. I believe Kansas State's also at home. But they do go to Ames, Iowa State. They'll be playing their butts off against OU, so you already know. But it'll be a lot of fun. The Big 12 this year should be pretty open, should be pretty fun. Lastly, let's talk about the SEC real quick. Bama, massive favorites in the West. I mean, just ridiculous favorites in the West. And then Georgia, massive favorites in the East. I saw a ticket for Tennessee to win the East at plus 750. I like it just because I think they have the offense to do it. It's just Georgia's going to be so darn good. I think Florida is a team that could surprise people. A lot of people are real down on them, though. They don't love the coaching hire from Louisiana Lafayette. You might have to help me with the coach's name. I can't think of it off the top. Billy Napier.
Yeah, Billy Napier.
Napier. I love how I got there. Did you see that? I just gutted it out. I knew the first name, and I knew if I just threw it out there, I'd figure it out. But I guess you kind of have to love the favorites here. Bama, you can't bet on them really, but Bama's just so talented. They returned the Heisman winning quarterback. How crazy is this? They returned the Heisman winning quarterback, and he's probably not the best player on the team. I give that to Will Anderson. He's just an absolute freak in there. So, I don't know if you have any thoughts about the SEC. It seems pretty top heavy, but what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, as we kind of discussed already, Alabama should be the favorite, and I do think that they're going to be the ones that run away with it. A lot of that also, I'm excited to see what happens with Jameer Gibbs coming over from Georgia Tech. I didn't realize, but he was an All-American last year. He's like kind of that like Swiss Army knife. I want to say they used him in all kinds of receiving, running back. So he's going to be a really good addition. I've seen some people just on some weird Heisman bets for him. Yeah, we'll see, but he'll be a nice pickup. It's just crazy how Alabama just runs through these running backs every year. They have a top running back. It doesn't matter who they put out there, but the team I'm kind of I'm higher on than other people are is I like Texas A&M a lot. Okay. I think that this Max Johnson, I think, is going to get their starting quarterback job. He was really good at LSU last year, so that defensive line is going to be nasty for Texas A&M. Yeah. I've been pretty hype about how Jimbo Fisher's recruited. We'll just see if the recruiting and his whole culture and everything is going to vibe this year. But
with Jimbo, it's always just been about the quarterback. If they've got the quarterback, they're going to do it. And we'll see. But the problem with Jimbo is his system, people say at least, is that his system is so difficult for quarterbacks to run. There's so many reads and last minute little switches and changes that I think but maybe Max Johnson is a guy that's veteran enough to get in there and figure it out. We'll see. I've never been a huge...
What's crazy is they haven't announced Max Johnson as the starting quarterback. There's 2 or 3 guys you're looking at right now. I'm like, Johnson had 27 touchdowns last year to 6 picks.
And he's got SEC experience as well.
So we'll see what's happening. it kind of concerns me that Jimbo hasn't announced a starter, but maybe that just means it's a really good competition. I don't know.
We'll see. Yeah. I mean, and Jimbo's one of those old school guys, don't show your hand until the last minute. So we'll see. Let's do something fun here. Before we go into the in the weeds plays, let's give out our 4, in order, the seeds of the college football playoff. For me, it's 1 Bama. We may have the exact same. 2 Ohio State. Let's go 3 Utah and 4, I guess Georgia. What do you think?
Yeah, so we have the same top 4, but I have Georgia at 3 and Utah at 4. I think Utah will pick up a loss at some point.
They could, and the other thing is Georgia's schedule is pretty easy, so that could be an undefeated, SEC showdown.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what's going to happen, and then I think it's just going to be like
those are guaranteed 2 seeds right there.
Yeah, I think everybody's going to have Alabama at 1, and they're just going to be like, well, Alabama's Alabama, so if that's Georgia's only loss, like they got to be 3.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, let's get into the weeds. You guys know I love these in the weeds plays, and let me describe quickly what a kind of in the weeds play is. These are a play on the board. It might be a sicko game, a game that you'd never want to bet, or maybe it's some team total under, or even a prop. We could even do some props in the future. This week's games, we don't have any top 25 teams playing, so almost every game qualifies as an in the weeds play. But I'm going to go with mine right here, and I actually love this play. This is the under 50. I think it's at 54 now in North Texas at UTEP. North Texas sneakily is going to have a much better defense. They got a new D coordinator in there. They've got a linebacker who everybody in the state of Texas wanted to transfer out. He ended up staying. UTEP loves to play a very slow style of football. That's just the way they love to run the clock. And last year, North Texas slowed down their offense a little as well. So we'll see, but I love this under 55 is what I locked it in at, in UNT at UTEP. What do you got?
There you go. I like that a lot, actually. I kind of was looking at that game, didn't really have much on it, so that kind of gives me a reason to put a play on it.
Let's go.
Dive in. The in the weeds play I have here, and it's really more just in the weeds because it's not necessarily the direct spread or total. I'm going to go with Vanderbilt's team total over 30.5. Vanderbilt, Hawaii is going to be that late game, just kind of – it's going to be an ugly game. Like Vanderbilt stinks. I'm not going to lie. They stink. But Hawaii is going to be really bad this year as well. A ton of turnover with Hawaii. Bringing in Timmy Chang as their, new coach, shout out Timmy Chang. But I think Hawaii's biggest, turnover was on defense. They lost 8 of their 10 top tacklers from last year. 10 of your, top tacklers, and 8 of them are gone. I think that's going to be a massive gap on that defense. And while Vanderbilt's offense might, stutter against a lot of other teams, 30.5 points is actually not that much.
No, not in college either.
No, it's not. Not against a team that I think Hawaii might be the worst in the Mountain West. I think I list them as like second worst, but they're probably going to be.
They likely could be.
So I think that's a good opportunity. Take their team total. There probably is going to be a lot of points in that game just overall. So
right, there very well could be. Let's go ahead and get into best bets here because I actually have a play on this game as well. We can stay right here on the islands, and this is like B said, it's a 9:30 going to be a local kick for the Vanderbilt Commodores, but I love them -8 here. I'm looking at the board right now; it's already moved to -9. This is a line that's kind of been jumping around. You mentioned all the transfers out of Hawaii. They have one of the, I think the stat is called TARP, TARP, but it's basically returning experience. And one team that has one of the highest TARPs is Vanderbilt. Now they weren't great last year. We know that, but they're playing against a team where they know they can win. They're in a cool destination. All eyes are going to be on them. It's a late night game. It's on, I think, ESPN. Let me double check. It is on CBS Sports Network. So it's still on national TV, sort of. It's 9:30 local time. So it's late, but it's not insane. I love the Vanderbilt Commodores here, -8. Might have to sprinkle that team total as well. I think similarly along what B said, they just got too much that they've got to replace. We love the coaching staff and stuff they have in place, but right now, right off the jump, I think Vanderbilt's going to be ready for them.
Definitely. Yeah, that's a perfect play. I like that we kind of are at least on the
it's a little
same team
synergy.
there.
Little
Yeah,
synergy.
good synergy starting off well. All right, I gotta go. We're gonna start off with probably my favorite play, and that is gonna be Nebraska minus 13. I know
Yeah.
somewhere Corey and all
right.
the Cornhusker fans are out there like, let's go Big Red. I think their defense is gonna be really solid this year.
Yeah.
And they picked up O'Shawn Mathis on the edge as a transfer. They said the hype around him is supposed to be really big this year. That defense was not bad last year. I think they're going to be stacked again this year. And I also I'm very high on Casey Thompson. I think him coming over from Texas, he's going to be great. Also, Northwestern, dude, they're going to be worst in the Big Ten West, probably in that conversation of worst in the Big Ten. I think they get rolled on Saturday. I think this is going to put that hope in like Nebraska fans' eyes. Like, this is our year. It might not be. It might just be that Northwestern stinks, but 13 points is not that much to me. I think that they roll Northwestern on Saturday.
Well, let me just say, I love that pick because my next pick is on that same game, and we are so synergized right now. I've got Nebraska team total over. The official line for me hasn't dropped yet, but I did find it at one place at 30.5. Again, 31 points for an NCAA team is not that crazy. You look at the head-to-head last year, Nebraska won this game 56-7. Now, it was in Lincoln, but come on, like they just ran them right over. I think they do something similar this year. Nebraska, I think, is headed in the right direction. We're going to see. I'm going to get to see them in person at Lincoln when OU comes to town. We're going to meet up with the boys from the Coda Sports Gambling Network. It's going to be an absolute blast. Lots of content coming out then. Keep your eyes peeled. But I like Nebraska team total over here for a lot of the same reasons that you were on it. And let's just, maybe we can just keep this synced up energy. I don't know. Go ahead.
Yeah. There you go. That fires me up. I think we'll have the luck of the Irish going out in Dublin this weekend. I think that'll be good. No, that's a great start. I'm gonna go with my next play. We talked about this one a little bit on the College Football Central podcast as well. So it makes me nervous that so many of us are on it. But I'm big on Utah State minus 27 over UConn. It could be minus 27.5. It could be minus 28. I think once again, this is one of those games where I think Utah State just absolutely rolls UConn. UConn is going to be one of the worst teams in the country again. I think their last FBS win was like 2019. I think so. Horrific. And I just think Utah State, they're returning their quarterback Logan Bonner.
I love him.
Very, very good. 36 touchdowns last year. Yeah, I got a boner for Bonner. I love that.
Did someone say that on CFB Central?
I did.
Oh, okay, good.
But no, I do, man. I think he's a really, really solid quarterback. And he's the only issue with Utah State this year is their receiving core. Lost a couple pieces, but I don't think it's going to matter against a team like UConn. They're going to be so bad defensively. This might be one of those, just like you kind of said, similar to that Nebraska Northwestern score, where it is like a 56-7. I could see Utah State just pouring it on in week one.
Well, you should also mention that, as far as I know, UConn's defensive coordinator was let go, and I believe they still haven't named an interim. So they don't even have like a DC right now making a game plan for them.
Just shambles.
That's gonna be tough. It is sad, and I don't know if you've ever seen a home game at UConn. Dude, my high school field looks every bit as good as their home stadium. It's actually kind of surprising and a little sad.
That's sad.
I know. I can't even really make fun of it too hard. Let's go to a team, though, that gets made fun of all the time, and that's the New Mexico State. What even are they? The Rebels?
Lobos? No? Or is that
that's New Mexico. Oh, no.
Cowboys, maybe?
Yeah, I don't know. We're going with New Mexico State plus 9. Okay, listen, they're not great. I see the line's at 8.5 right now. We still like that. They're playing Nevada at home. Now, Nevada is power rated very high because they were really good last year. They lost their quarterback. They lost their coach. They lost almost everybody on offense that they all left and went to Colorado State. The cupboards are very bare, at least on offense. So I think that New Mexico State, this is one of the few games, they're independent. So this is one of the few games they look at on their schedule that's like, we can contend. We're at home. We can battle. We can fight. I think I won a bunch of money on them to start the year last year as well. I'm going to do it again this year. New Mexico State plus 8.5 at home out there in the desert. Welcome them in the Nevada Wolfpack. It's a brand new squad for them. I've heard that they've got some non-scholarship guys on their two deep. So if anybody gets hurt, they're all of a sudden they've got you and me out there trying to make plays. So that's a good sign for us. New Mexico State plus 9.
Yeah, put me in. That would be awesome. No, I like that a lot. Just as you mentioned, Nevada, that air raid offense is completely gone. Like, that's in Colorado State now.
Yep.
So most people that are going to be betting this game, I just have a strong feeling they don't actually know that they didn't look into the fact that their offensive coordinator's gone. This isn't Carson Strong at quarterback for Nevada anymore. So it's a whole turnover. So I think that's a great look as far as they might be able to pull off just a shocking, kind of close game.
And this is the 9 p.m. Central game. So this will kind of now you'll have something to flip back and forth between. When Hawaii kicks off, you'll have a second game to go to. So those are always good.
Oh yeah. So my next play I'm on, and it's going to be ugly. It might be close, but I think it's going to go over. I like Wyoming and Illinois over 43.5 points.
Oh, that's a low total.
It is a low total. And I think what's expected is that Wyoming is not going to be very good offensively. They're a very run-heavy team, as I mentioned, Titus Swan. But I think that's going to be okay. I think Titus Swan and 5.9 yards per carry, as I mentioned earlier, I think he has a big game. All right, yeah. So Tommy DeVito for Illinois is going to be really solid. They just named him as starter. I really liked him at Syracuse when he was a freshman. A lot of us were really excited about him. We thought he would, kind of take Syracuse to, new heights, but he may not be, a star at Illinois, but I think he's going to be good enough to put up some points this week. And 43.5 points, just such a low total.
That's a low total.
It's ugly, but I think that even if Wyoming and Illinois are these kind of very, I don't know, I guess just ugly defensive teams, there'll be enough points on the board, in my opinion. Even if it's only 45 points, I think we're going to just get over it. We got enough pieces on offense for each team to make me feel confident there.
Yeah. And this is one beast that's the spread is ballooned for. It was like 11 today. It's like 13.5 now for Illinois. So that's actually probably good for you because you kind of want a blowout. If you get a blowout, you likely go over. So there's that. Okay, so that was all my best bets. I don't know about you, but I'm ready to hop in. You got any more?
I got one more play, and that is on Charlotte and Florida Atlantic.
Oh, right,
I'm on the over 60 points. So we go from a low total at 43.5 to a total up at 60.
Charlotte's baby.
Charlotte's defense last year was awful, 116th in the country in scoring defense. So I don't think they're going to be that good this year. Chris Reynolds, they're returning their quarterback at Charlotte. So I think Charlotte's actually going to be able to put up some points. I'm excited just about them in this week, just overall. So I think returning their quarterback, and then N'Kosi Perry is going to be the quarterback at Florida Atlantic again. He was pretty solid last year. I like what you're getting out of him. 60 points. This might be one of those games where it's just an absolute shootout. And I think Charlotte keeps up with them and just kind of pushes and pushes and pushes where we get 60 points. So
that's what we want. Okay, so let's now hop into our money line dogs real quick. And what this segment is, we're each going to give one of our favorite underdogs on the board to win straight up. And I'm not going to lie, folks, this one's kind of bad for me because it's really almost a pick 'em at this point. But I like the UTEP Miners over the North Texas Mean Green on the money line. It's around even money, minus 105. It's not that exciting, but UTEP at home, they're some dogs. And I expect them to play hard. Seth Luttrell from North Texas, I love him. But UTEP at home, they're going to take this game very seriously. This is a, darn near a rivalry game. Anytime two Texas teams play each other, they want bragging rights. All these kids went to high school in Texas. I love the home field advantage they have. It may not be a full crowd, but going out to West Texas, it's almost like being in a different country. If you come from Denton, Texas, which is where North Texas is, it's kind of just north of Dallas, kind of looks, like a normal green place. And now you're all of a sudden in the desert. It looks like you're out in, New Mexico or something out west. So I'm going to go with the UTEP Miners. It's a short underdog, but still an underdog. I think they'll win.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I think that, hey, this was a tough week to find underdogs, so I was searching the board tough too. And going off that last play, I like Charlotte at plus 235. It'll be a tough one to pull off, but I do like their quarterback a lot. Like I said, Chris Reynolds, 26 touchdowns last year, 9 interceptions. So you're getting an experienced quarterback returning. If Florida Atlantic's defense is just kind of shaky in week 1 or they kind of come out rusty at any point, you have an experienced quarterback that's going to know what he's doing in there. If you can give me an underdog at plus 235 with the guy that threw 26 touchdowns, only 9 picks last year, hey, if he's better than he was last year, this might be a very, kind of under the radar plus 235. So
that's solid. That's really solid. And in college football, it's just all about having that quarterback. And if you got it, then you got to feel good. All right. With that said, we're going to introduce our last segment, which is the Pod Parlay. So this is actually very self-explanatory. As we mentioned, we're going to have multiple guests on the show going forward. And what we're going to do is ask everyone who's on the pod to give one play, and that could be a money line or a total or a spread. And then we're going to mash those two together, see what it is. It could be one of the bets you gave out in best bets. And for this week, since the board's so small, I know my pick comes from here, and I'm sure yours does too. I'm going to go with the New Mexico State plus 9 line for mine. And we've already kind of given reasons, but I like them here. It's kind of a tough place to play. It's kind of a sleeper place to play. It's a brand new squad for Nevada. So this is one that's, the public's kind of been on, hoping that the line's still there and we get some value and we hit this first pod parlay. What do you got for it?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I like Nebraska minus 13 as my play. That would be like my best bet that we're throwing in the parlay here. Once again, I just think Northwestern's going to come out very flat. I think that Nebraska rolls them. Very excited about what Casey Thompson's going to bring. This Nebraska team, just in general, and the fan base, there's a lot of hype going into this year. And I think this week 0 game, a lot is riding on it. And I think that the team comes out, just blows out Northwestern.
Love it. So there you have it. And one thing I want to add, Beast, just since we've been on here on the pod, this line has fallen all the way down to Nebraska minus 11.5. So let's
something's going on. Something's going on.
Something's up. We need to keep our little antennas up here. We'll figure this out. And if there's any corrections to be made, look out for our Twitter. We'll make it, because there could be some injury news we don't know about at this point that could change this last minute for us. Definitely. But as of right now, these two spreads put together gives you a plus 265 payout. Hopefully we smash this first pod parlay. You kind of just have to tail the first one, right? So the people, hopefully will get paid off for listening this far in to the podcast. Any kind of closing remarks you have, Beast?
I'm curious on your thoughts. What is Quinn Ewers going to look like at Texas this year? What are our expectations?
Man, so that is interesting, and we potentially could have covered that in the transfers section, but there's been some weird buzz out of Texas's camp, and it's hard to know exactly what to trust or what you can trust. There was a lot of word coming out that Hudson Card really is the one that won this quarterback competition going into the year. Card's a guy that's already played in this offense last year, but basically that the boosters came out and said, no, you have to name Quinn Ewers the starter. He's the guy. We paid him this money to get here. You're going to play him. And kind of the way they introduced Quinn Ewers as the starter kind of makes you think like maybe there's something to that, because they kind of told people, it was the athletic director that came out and told people, and it was at the end of a press conference. He basically was like, all right, Quinn Ewers is our starting quarterback. See you later. And that when he said that like the room just went silent. It wasn't like cheers or like it was just like quiet, super weird vibes. It's hard for me to give a true take, because it almost comes out no matter what, then I'm a hater. We'll sit and see, but there are some kind of red flags that go up when you think about him. Number one, as far as I know, he didn't play a single snap last year for Ohio State. Yeah. And his biggest thing about recruiting seemed to be his NIL deals, which is also kind of a red flag, but we'll see. There's a lot of hype around him. He's another one of those stories. We previewed in the CFB preview that we really only think that 2 teams can possibly win the national championship. And that may be true, but this year with college football, there's so much more exciting stuff happening around it, like Quinn Ewers, that, it's going to be worth paying attention to. So he's going to be another one of these stories you got to stay tuned into. But what do you think about him?
Yeah, you just never know with these transfer quarterbacks because, like you said, a guy could never have a snap at Ohio State and then come over and they could be a stud. Like Justin Fields didn't really barely play at Georgia
At
very
Georgia,
much.
that's true.
And I want to say same thing. Like Joe Burrow didn't really touch the field at Ohio State.
Right.
Went
Never.
down. And these are two quarterbacks that ended up being, some of the
That's a
best
good point.
quarterbacks. So you don't know what's going to happen. But at the same time, you could have a quarterback that just it's all hype and there's no
Tate
show on
Martell.
the field. Yeah, exactly. Just like nothing on the field. So
Yeah.
we'll see. I'm excited to kind of see what happens. But same thing, like you said, I've read a lot of people's opinions that I highly respect that say he's supposed to be great. But I'm just weary of I want to see it happen first before I'm saying Texas is back. I want to see that Quinn Ewers is actually the real deal.
Right.
So
yeah, and we'll be covering a lot more NFL soon for you folks that are out there that just wanted to hear a little bit of NFL action. We'll get to it. Like I said, we've got a pretty special episode cooked up in the head for that one, and that'll be a lot of fun. This was awesome, Beast. I think we killed it on episode 1 of season 2 here. It's week 0 college football. We don't have a ton of insane games, but it's football, man. We're back.
No, I mean, I'm excited about, everything that's going to happen with the season and NFL, like you said, coming up. So just stay tuned.
That's right. We're going to have 2 shows now of Not Another CFB Pod. And remember, we're not just talking CFB now. We're talking it all. You're going to have your recap show that comes out Tuesday mornings, talk about our bets, talk about how the weekend went, any big stories. And then you'll have this episode that drops Friday mornings. Here's our bets. You can hit it before all the public does, and these lines start jumping around. You've heard on the show how much these lines have already started moving. It's crazy right now. Week 0, baby. We're back. Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned this season.